Oh, it was a good night.
Some nights I have bad nights.
I had the impression that you were
Enjoying
it.
must have been.
Yeah. I've been there when I've had the impression that you've not been so happy because I mean, one of the things about, can I just come around to you? One of the things about solo guitar is that in a room like Ronnie's, you must be really very dependent on the ambience created by the audience.
Yeah, and the sound that I'm hearing, that I hear, and that's it.
Yes.
You know, and that varies the sound. Some nights it's nice, and some nights it's too thin or something that bothers me. So, and the audience, the response sometimes is strange.
Yes.
You know, or I misread it. You know.
Yes.
And then I become preoccupied with like thinking, wait a minute, do they like it? Should I be playing Misty, which I don't like? You know. So, anyway.
Yes. Can I just go back a few years, Joe? I mean, the first time I heard you was on the Catch Me record, which I liked very much. And then after that, the record for Django, which also is a favorite of mine.
Those were World Pacific Jazz, and they were my first real jazz recordings. I did some other ones, but they were not significant. But those were my own releases under my own name, and there may not have been a lot of guitarists recorded at that time. I mean, there was only a few: Barney, Tal, Jim Hall. Barney had been around, Tal had been around, and Jim Hall all had been around. But there were not. Outside in West Montgomery was definitely, But I think I was about the only other guy coming around at that time. Any guitarist. So that might have accounted for interest in the album. I was playing at that time a Gibson guitar, 175, and before that a Fender. I didn't have a guitar, so someone donated a Fender. I managed to get a decent sound out of it, and I used it. But,
there's a picture of you in the front of your book, Joe Pass Guitar Style, with a Fender guitar.
That
always
was
surprises people.
That was strange. Yeah, well, the publisher at that time, Gwynn Publishing, Carol Kay, thought that maybe if I took a picture with a Fender guitar, that Fender would maybe help to sell the book, or endorse it, or make a deal or something. So I said, okay, it's kind of silly. Of course, what happened really was that she managed to get Fender to run an ad in the back of the book for a few years, I guess, and saved her some, or put some money in her coffers or something, But I didn't endorse Fender, and they never approached me, and I never used it. I used it because I had to for about a year, But I could never get with solid body guitars, even though they're very fast and easier to play. They don't. I don't like them.
There's very few jazz guitar players use them, but the only person I can think of who does and is chordally inclined is Ed Bickert.
Ed Bickert, yeah, he uses it, and he has a certain setup, I think, on a certain kind of pickups, and that there's a nice sustaining quality to his playing, and moving around on the solid body guitar is, I would say, a little easier because of the way the neck is, and the strings generally are thinner gauge strings.
Can I just ask about string gauge? Looking at your guitar, you seem to have quite heavy strings.
I have medium gauge, but they're mixed. I have a 13 on the first, a 17 on the second, 25 on the third, 32 on the fourth, 42 on the fifth, and 52 on the sixth. So it's a mixed gauge. 26 on the third.
26 on the third.
Yeah, I like a little heavier string.
Yes.
And they're flat wound strings.
Yes.
And I like them.
Yes.
They're GHS strings. Because they make flat wound strings. I don't. And I found those to be the best.
And again, going back to that period of when you were first recording your own albums, one of the characteristics of your style, which I noticed at that point, was I find it hard to define this, but it's the way that in which you swing eighth notes, which seem to me to be different from any of the other guitar players I'd heard before.
The feeling of the eighth notes.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I think it's just kind of based on horn players, because I've always tried to copy or sound like a horn. I didn't want to sound like a guitar player, so I try to avoid bending strings. I avoided the common cliches that are associated with playing the guitar, certain intervals, certain licks, certain Charlie Christian things. I think some of the phrasing that I play, kind of the way I play eighth notes, is because I spent some years in New York when I was 16, 17, and New York City, and I was associated with a lot of New York players that were like Frank Gusto, Carmen Leggio, different people. Some of them you wouldn't recognize, but they were really essentially real hard New York hard jazz bebop players, and that was the feeling that they imparted in their playing. It was really like sort of like a elongated Horace Silver style playing, you know, with long lines.
Yes.
And I like that feeling, so I just, you know, adapted it. You know. I don't know, and it was a kind of playing that was really predominant in the playing in the East Coast in New York in the 50s.
I think what's often called hard bop. All that stuff.
Yeah.
Vague term.
Yeah, vague term, but there is a certain attack or a certain kind of phrasing that was associated with that.
Yes.
You know? And I've always remained with that kind of. It's the part like Oscar Peterson plays that way.
Yes.
I would say.
Yes.
When he's playing single lines. You know.
And I mean, you made the point just now that in a sense you're trying to avoid a lot of the guitar cliches, or yet your album for Django is a tribute to
Django,
a great guitar player who's very much a guitar player. And,
yeah, but I never copied Django Reinhardt's style. I never even thought about copying it. You know, I liked what he played, and I liked his the fact that he played the guitar fantastically. But I didn't particularly like or want to play like that kind of style, that kind of attack that he had. But I liked it, and the tunes. I don't know. The idea was for the record company said, "Why don't you do something, you know, in tribute to Django Reinhardt, because he's a great guitarist." And I agreed, because when I first started playing, that's the first guitar player I ever heard. That outside of Gene Autry, that I thought, geez, this guy is fantastic. And all the tunes that I learned, Night and Day and Lady Be Good and Rosetta, they all come from that era, you know. And those were all kinds of tunes he played. So that's the reason for the album.
Strange, a lot of those tunes are composed by expatriate Europeans who went to America, then played by French gypsy, and then you heard them in the States again.
But I heard them when I was like 10, 11 years old, and I learned them, and so those were the kind of tunes that automatically lent themselves to dedicating an album to him, because I'd been playing those kind of tunes.
And again, in that period, on those records, there's really no evidence of the solo style, which was to emerge later.
No.
And I wondered whether you'd begun to develop that aspect of your playing at that period.
No, I always played some solo guitar in this style, because I was asked a lot, often, to play for people. You know, get your guitar and play something. So I mean, what do? You know, play a song. You know, I mean, and so somehow I just would pick a tune and that I was playing around with, and then just try to play it for friends and company and all that. And then usually on a gig, when later on, I would play a couple tunes solo, because all guitar players do. During a set, they play one or two solo pieces, give the rhythm section a rest. So, but I never intended to play totally solo guitar, because it never occurred to me, like, you know, you kidding, an hour of playing alone? You know, like, that's, I mean, you can't play all ballads, you know. But Norman Granz was responsible for me doing that. He said, gonna put you on a gig with Oscar Peterson, and you will play a part of it solo, and so I said, I don't play solo for 40 minutes or, He said, piano players do it. Classical guitar players go up and play. So I went up and struggled through a lot of concerts and gigs, trying to figure out a way of, on the gig, on the job playing. I mean, I never practiced nothing or planned it or nothing. I'm too lazy. So I just did it over the years by actually going before an audience and then saying, okay, here's Lady Be Good, what'll I do? And somehow I've developed some kind of style for playing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Was it? I mean, you're certainly the first player I ever heard to keep that kind of baseline, what's called baseline comping kind of.
Yeah, it's
approach.
baseline comping. I include the melody. I play fills. I move changes around. I do whatever seems to come into my mind, and I try to make it hang together so that it has some cohesiveness, so that it's like together. Once in a while, I'm playing all the parts at the same time. Not always. Once in a while. You can't do it all at the same time always. If you did, you'd have to sit down and rehearse a thing and practice it and get it down. And once, I'm afraid of that. Once you do that, you always do it that way. You never change. You never take any chances. You never improvise, really. You play it set, and it becomes really boring. I mean, it becomes deadly. It's like I get requests for Satin Doll, and certain tunes become like habits, and you just don't want to play them until not long enough time passes whereby they become fresh again. And as long as I don't have a set pattern of playing, I mean, you have to use some things. Everybody does. Some things that are cliches of yours or whatever you want to call them. You have to. They're bridges between improvising. But I don't make any arrangements, and I just see what happens. Sometimes it's a total bass line, sometimes it's chords and bass, melody, chords and bass, single note, change tempos if I feel that I'm not getting into nothing, and it's sort of developed like that, and fortunately so far, I mean, nobody has complained. I mean, nobody said, hey, let's go, this is not jazz or whatever, but, so...
And going back to your early days, when you started to play guitar, did you have any formal training on guitar?
I had a year training in my hometown, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and I was 9. I took lessons when I was 10. The local teacher, Nick Gemus, his name was, and he played in local bands and that, and he played saxophone, violin, and piano, and guitar, and a lot of instruments. He could play them all pretty good too. It wasn't bad. I mean, and he was like a dedicated musician in that he practiced and played every day, And he had an ulcer, and he was a kind of a grouchy guy, And my father talked him into giving me lessons. He didn't teach anybody. He was just one of those guys who got up in the morning and played through music books and studied and played and word on. And I studied a year with him, some simple books, Nick Lucas, and got a hold of a Carcassi method, classical book, and went through about the first 30 pages, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And the rest was playing. There was a group in town that was modeled after Django's group. It was a jazz violin, rhythm guitar, and bass. The violinist was a music teacher and a barber, but he played very good jazz violin, and he played all the latest tunes plus all the improvising Honeysuckle Rose, and I met him, introduced him through my father in an Italian community, and he heard me play a little bit and seemed to feel that I could pick up changes and melodies, and so I went around playing with them, and I picked up a lot of things, but that's the way I got started.
And I notice when you're playing with the pick, it's a small point, but it always seems to me that your pick technique is not absolutely alternate, is it?
No, my pick technique is it's down picking, except when I'm on the string. If I stay on one string, it's alternate.
Yes.
But if I go from one string to another, it's always down. Whether I'm going back or forward or what, it's always down. so I pick down. But if I'm on a string, it's alternate picking. Then a lot of picking, I don't pick a lot of notes. I slam, hammer and slurs and pull-offs, and that comes from playing fingerstyle. You have to have those. You can't pick every note. It's too staccato, you know. And sometimes I have a problem if I play a lot with my fingers and then I go for the pick. There has to be a period of adjustment because you do a little more picking with the right hand, and so a lot of times I'm trying to hammer and pull off and pick at the same time, and I get out of sync in a way. So it takes maybe 5 minutes or so.
I notice when you're playing, when you're making the transition, actually in a piece, from pick to fingers, that you
I just
sometimes hammer on chords.
I hammer on, to try to keep
it going,
the pulse going, and sometimes I get them okay, other times I don't.
It's very effective.
It depends on what, depends on how relaxed I am and how focused I am on the playing.
Another aspect of your playing, which always seems to me to be particularly strong, is your emphasis on really good working bass lines. Bass lines that make a lot of sense and move.
Yeah,
well.
I like. I think the bass line is very, very important in framing a tune. And a lot of students ask me, how do you play bass lines and comp at the same time? And they under the misconception that it's the comping that counts, and what it is the bass line. The bass line has to be like a little frame or a piece by itself. If you were to lift it off, it would make a little melody in a way, roots and lines, and so if the bass line is right and you have a good ear for bass line, the comping is just incidental. That's just rhythmic, But I like. If I were not a guitar player, I'd be a bass player.
I was going to ask you that. When I was coming up, I just had a suspicion that might be the case.
Yeah, I like the instrument. And there's you have choices of notes to pick, and a lot of times you can use a fifth of a chord instead of the flatted fifth, because the fifth, or the like if you're in the key of G, and instead of playing A flat for a D7, a D is the choice note really, because it's the right sound. I mean, I think anyway. So, but I like bass lines. I rely on them.
And in terms of your career at present, Joe, I mean, how do you balance the solo guitar work that you do with other work, with rhythm sections?
Well, let's see. I play mostly solo, and occasionally I play with Niels Pedersen, duo. We did in Copenhagen 2 weeks ago. And other times I play with Oscar Peterson, which we will be doing a week and a half from now, just piano and guitar. We do some of those things. We share a concert and play together. And then I play with Oscar in a quartet setting with Mark and Drew and Niels, 4 or 5 weeks a year. And then I play some with Ella Fitzgerald, just accompanying her 4 or 5 tunes. And I've really been limited to the various players that I play with, as far as I don't use a group, And once in a while in LA I'll play a local gig for a couple of weekends, and I'll just play with whatever bass player is around or drummer. But I still play predominantly solo. Then at the end of the set, 2 or 3 tunes, and you just make an adjustment. I mean, it's not hard. I mean, you just play a lot less. In fact, it's a lot easier, And when I play with Oscar, I do a little comping, and I get my choruses, and we exchange fours, and it's just different, but it's not. I don't find it difficult. I mean, I don't find that I'm hindered in any way. I just change the way I play. I just don't play as much. That's all, which is okay.
And finally, another aspect of your work is, in a sense, as an educator. I mean, I think your book, it was probably your first book, Joe Pass Guitar Style.
Yeah.
It's a very influential book, I think.
Yeah, I have it. I think it's being republished by Mel Bay now, and maybe in the next 6 or 7 months. And it was started by a guitarist named Bill Thrasher, who's deceased now, but he was studying with me, and he was a kind of a guitarist that studied with everybody, Barney, Jim Hall, I mean, you name it, he had been there, because he was very, very inquisitive about all kinds of playing. He could play very good, but he was not the kind of a player who could go out and play in public. He had to stay in his little town, and he did a lot of copying and research, and when I came to LA, he started studying with me and compiling all the stuff that I'd show him he'd put on tape, and then he'd bring me the music next week, and we would spend all day, hanging out. And we got enough material. He said we should maybe do a book out of it, and that's how it started. But since then, I've had other books. I like having books published and all that, but if it's a Beatle book or something, that's you can stay off, you can retire. But if it's something else, it's just a matter of. I have something now. I received from a guitarist here in London, George Vitch. I can't think of his name.
Wasn't George 80?
No, but his name is on that cassette over there, and he copied all the Django album, all the melodies from the Django album. All of the, and
wasn't John Etheridge, was it?
No, all. George Kish.
Oh, George Kish, yes.
He copied all the music from the Django album and then harmonized it for 4 guitars and a nut rhythm guitar, and it sounds good. I mean, so I'm going to try to get it published for a study. It was interesting. He gave me one track as an example.
Yes. Oh, yes, George has been around for a long time, actually. He does radio work.
Yeah, he did a lot of work.
Yeah. There's also the chord solos, I think the book's called, which has actually your favourite tune, Misty.
Yeah, that's where I got trapped with that. But yeah, well, all those books are now in Mel Bay's company, and he's going to republish.
Is it likely that the book would come out which would feature your solo style, perhaps, in some of the standard songs?
There is a book out now of a whole album, number 3. Virtuoso number 3, which are all original tunes, which have been transcribed, put on paper, and it's out now, along with a cassette, so you can hear with it, or a record, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's out. And then there's also doing all the blues that I've done from Intercontinental album and Pablo records, and I have maybe, 6 blues of different kinds that are being put into a book. So, and Virtuoso 1 is supposed to be put into a book. One of the problems is a lot of publishers don't want to put that stuff in books because it's long. The book would be too thick, and they're looking for something that sells quick and easy, right? And it's hard. Some of it's. I look at it. I can't play it. I can't read it. But it's so people are going to look at it and say, I'm going to play this.
Yeah. And are you doing much in the way of teaching? Because I know you've got an association with GIT.
I have an association with them as sort of a counselor, and I go in when I'm in LA. Well, I live in LA, and when I'm home for a few weeks, to get out of the house, I go down there a couple hours for 2 days a month or something, and I take groups of players in a room, and we just pick something to talk about or play. Sometimes I just go and play. Sometimes I do a large seminar. But they have a lot of guitar players and some very good ones, and they're from all over the world, So, and it's okay. It's good to be in touch with young players. I find it difficult to get in my car and drive down there because I could find a million things to do. But once I get there and I have the guitar out and the kids are in there, I find it's kind of stimulating. Young players are around, and they always have something to make you think about, and it's the way I practice, because I don't practice, and it's not good to say, but I don't sit around, 2 hours a day practicing. I'm just too lazy for that. And then I do a lot of playing when I play, like at night. Yeah. That's a lot of practice too.
Right. We won't mention that. But maybe that's something you'd consider doing next time you're in London. This little seminar with some of the guitar players.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing it. I did a couple 4 or 5 years ago.
Yes, I remember. I think I was at that one.
I did for Summerhill, a guy in
Summerfield.
Summerfield, yeah.
Yes.
In Newcastle.
Newcastle.
He
Yes, I know
came here,
Morris. Yes.
Morris, yeah.
Morris Summerfield. Yes.
And I did one time for Ivor Moran's
Yes, I
seminar.
think I was at that one. Yes.
And but I haven't been approached to do it anymore. I think in a way sometimes maybe an informal seminar is good once in a while with a player that's coming through, but I think there was a time when it became such a habit that actually people were spending their money going to seminars and not really benefiting from them. You know, I mean, it's like they came because maybe you had some secret you could tell them, and it'd be, you know. So I've done seminars in the States where they would charge I don't know what considerable amount of money, and I'd come in and there'd be 30 people and one kid with a gut string guitar, one with a Fender guitar, one who knew G7s, one who didn't know anything, one who was just a part-time barber and a guitar player. And, you know, I mean, yeah, it got to be, I thought it was a rip-off, you know, so I stopped.
I run seminars with Howard Roberts.
Did you?
Yeah, I've done a couple with Howard and one or two things. I might twist your arm next time.
Yeah, oh, I don't mind doing them, but there was a period of time, maybe 8, 9 years ago, where in the States there was this, every week somebody was doing a seminar, and these same people would go to the same seminars and come back with the same non-information because you know, you tell them so many things in 2 hours that you don't remember what you're talking about. You know,
you're still struggling to get the fingers in G7.
Yeah, right.
Joe, that's great. I'm very grateful to you for making this interview possible.
Thank you
for giving up the time early in your day. I think actually.
No, I get up at about 10:30. I was really tired today. But,
yes.
But now some guitar players coming over around 2.
Yes. And are you going back to the States after this?
Yeah, I have to go play Tuesday in Chicago.
Yes.
I'm finishing up like a 5-week tour.
Yes.
It's a little too long, you know.
It must be. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's hotel room and eating out. But just the way jobs fall sometimes. I'm off for a while, and then all of a sudden I have like a bunch of work, and it's either you take it or you don't. You know?
Quite. Yes.
So, but I always like coming here.
Yes.
I like 2 weeks at Ronnie's.
Yeah.
I get a lot of playing in 2 sets a night.
That's pretty well an annual event, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, so far it's been every year. Yeah. Sometimes with Niels, I played a couple times with Niels.
I heard that. That was about a couple of years ago. Perhaps I enjoyed that very much.
Yeah. Maybe next year we'll play together again. We did in Copenhagen. Every year we play there 4 days. Yeah.
Is that at the Montmartre Club?
No, that's at the Jazz Hut or something. It's in Tivoli.
Oh, yes.
It's a jazz club. Nice club.
I don't know. Okay, Joe.
Thank you.